Hi there. Today on Typical Books, it is a late May catch-up. What I'm going to do is talk a little bit about the books that I'm reading and want to read right now, and some new horror releases coming up. So first, here's a few new books coming from Horror Writers Association authors. Some that are already out right now, we have Awake, Tales of Terror by Lou Rera. I don't know how I'm pronouncing that right. This comes from Knight Rider Publishing. Knight Writer, not Knight Rider, that awesome show with David Hasselhoff. Knight Writer Publishing. A collection of 13 stories that delve into a dysfunctional world that confronts everyday people and their lives. You'll discover one unmistakable conclusion: horrible things happen to good and to bad people. That's that sort of comeuppance that I love reading about. There's a lot of collections out right now, and while not necessarily horror, there's one called Android Girl and Other Sentient Speculations by Michael H. Hansen. This comes from Three Ravens Publishing, and it is out. This daring collection offers one-way passage to those adventuresome souls willing to journey amidst this quirky, strange, and often psychedelic verse. Chaotic, comforting, and sometimes silly collection of science fiction, fantasy, and horror poems will tickle the fancy of your imagination and feed the hunger of your heart. So yeah, there's quite a few collections here. It came from the stories and novels behind classic horror, fantasy, and science fiction films by Jim Nemeth and Bob Madison, and this comes from Midnight Marquee Press. Did I say the previous one? Oh yeah, it was Three Ravens. Okay. So yeah, this one caught my eye because it's 21 essays on the adaptation of horror, fantasy, and science fiction classics from book to screen. So things like Psycho, Don't Look Now, Night of the Demon, and countless others. There's 21 essays on the trials and tribulations, the pitfalls, the things that people might have done right or wrong in adapting something from book to screen. Hell House. I hope they talk about Hell House. And last but not least, not out yet, Gutter Breed by Marty Young. This comes from Eclectic Trio, and it'll be out middle of next month sometime. Bipolar has ruined Detective Jenny Ashton's life. But when she gets a chance to use the disease for good, she takes it, even though it leads her into a world that shouldn't exist, filled with monsters of the very worst kind. A growing nightmare festers in the shadows of Parkton, its madness, eager for the real world. This one draws me in, not only because it's got a groovy cover, but the idea of using bipolar, and hopefully it will be outside of the typical boxes. It sounds like it's going to be. So yeah, Gutter Breed. Very interested to read that in the future. So yeah, what have I been reading? I was pretty sure I had mentioned House of Leaves. Mark Z. Danielewski. I'm not sure exactly how to pronounce that. It's going well. Yeah, I'm not very far through it. This was a request, and I'm revisiting this. This was a DNF book from way back when, probably around the time that I had recorded. Probably around the time that I think I turned instead to reread Faust instead of this. So yeah, that's how long ago it was. But it was just too much. I wanted a book with a beginning, middle, and end, and chapters and sentences that made sense to me. And this, I find I'd put 10% on my Goodreads reading progress, because it's really hard to guesstimate exactly how far you are through something like this. And I didn't want to use page numbers because I don't think the pages are necessarily reflective of your overall progression through this particular book. So yeah, I don't think I'll read any more of this author's work. I don't know, it's so hard to tell. I had put this book down after only a few pages because I was like, yeah, this is just too pretentious for me. And it's asking me to do too much, and I'm not interested so far. Getting this far into it though, and without any spoilers, like I'll probably have a few updates while I'm reading this as far as a reading vlog, I suppose. So when the little girl mentions playing always, there's no spoiler there. You need to be reading it to understand what that means. By that point, I'm like, okay, I see the appeal. It took me this long to see the appeal. Okay, but I see it and I get it. Even though the thing that is appealing about the story, the real story of this book so far, because I don't really know what it is something like A Head Full of Ghosts. And Head Full of Ghosts is like this for dummies in a way, and I don't mean any disrespect in either direction on that one, because I enjoyed Head Full of Ghosts. Head Full of Ghosts has something similar, it seems, going on. Now, in the beginning when we meet the house, the Navidson house is compelling to me. And it's sort of, I think this is what was frustrating, is to understand that there's many stories going on in this book. When I meet the Navidson house, that's all I want, right? It's like the movie Oculus. I will always argue that I want the story of the kids. I don't want the story of the teenage or a young adult people in the house. I just want the story of what happened, the horrible story of what happened. I don't want the haunting story of them dealing with it. I think that's what this is. I want the haunting. Okay? Is it spoilery to say it's a haunting? I don't even know anymore. So far, I'm enjoying it though. I will say that. And then when I'm done that, I've been wanting to get to Horror in the Woods. My husband picked it up. He was the one that noticed it in the bookstore, and we really were drawn to this because it should hit all my buttons as far as being a woodland horror, sort of cannibalistic, backwoods family, the things that I really love. Reminds me of home. I have a feeling this will be the perfect companion in my mind to something that is as thinky as House of Leaves. I'd failed to give it proper mention, but there is a story time of mine where I read one of the stories from my Praylight Eve book 2, Praylight Eve 2, As Is Where Is, which is a story that had never been read aloud, I don't believe, anywhere else. I've never done a reading with that story. I haven't done a reading since that's been in print. So it is for the North Grenville Public Library, who's doing author readings, and the contact details are on that particular video. So if you're interested in seeing other authors reading other things, there are many different flavors of readings. It's happening every Thursday. So I believe next Thursday, who knows, it could be 3 Thursdays from now, that they will be hosting mine. But in the meantime, if you want the sneak peek, I posted it several days ago. So feel free to go and take a look at that story. And thank you so much to those who have given feedback already. It's always a little nerve-wracking. I do an okay job of doing readings, but it is a little nerve-wracking. So thank you for your support and for reading. So I'd gone way back in time and I watched Stacey Story's review of A House of Leaves, and I find that a lot of people had read it when I had originally picked it up, and I should have continued reading it at that point, really, if I wanted to talk about it. So I feel I'm very late to the game. So if you have read it, if you have a review out there in the world, let me know in the comments, because I'd love to read that. If you've read, of course, Horror in the Woods, I know I brought it up before in a previous haul, but might as well ask if anyone has any Lee Montfort input. Let me know, or let me know just what you're reading. I hope everyone's having a really awesome week and a great weekend heading into what should be summer for a lot of us. It's been extremely hot here, and I think that that's sort of playing mind games with people in regards to the virus, because everyone is out and about, and there's a lot of people who don't want to be out and about and don't want to see those people out and about and don't want them out and about anywhere near them. So it's creating like a lot of really strange attitudes out in the streets right now. So I, for one, am very content to stay home, read a book, and have an ooky, spooky day.